Looking back now, it all feels a bit like a movie montage. The late nights fueled by lukewarm coffee and an unwavering belief in what I was building. Early mornings, sunlight just barely tracing the edges of the blinds, already at my desk, sketching out new ideas, refining old ones. It was a grind, absolutely, but it was chair my niece grind. Every single brick in that foundation, every line of code, every customer interaction, it was all infused with a passion that went way beyond just making a living. This wasn't just a business. It was an extension of myself, a dream I had painstakingly brought to life. Our company, let's call it Zenith Innovations, started small, as most good things do. It began in my garage, cliché as that sounds, with a single, audacious idea: to simplify complex tech solutions for small and medium-sized businesses. I'd seen too many of my friends, talented entrepreneurs themselves, get bogged down by clunky software, overpriced consultants, and systems that just didn't speak their language. I believed there was a better way, a more intuitive, human-centered approach to technology. And so Zenith was born, a tiny beacon of hope in a sea of corporate jargon and bloated budgets. For the first few years, it was exhilarating. We grew organically, fueled by word of mouth and the sheer effectiveness of our products. Our clients weren't just customers, they were partners, often becoming friends. We tailored solutions, we listened intently, and we delivered results that genuinely transformed their operations. It wasn't about selling a product. It was about solving a problem, making someone's life easier, helping another small business thrive. That personal touch, that deep understanding of their struggles, became our secret sauce, our core identity. We weren't just a tech company, we were an ally. The team grew, slowly but surely. I was incredibly selective, looking for people who shared that same passion, that same commitment to genuine service. We were a small but mighty crew, a band of digital artisans crafting elegant solutions. Our office, a repurposed old warehouse with exposed brick and endless whiteboards, hummed with a creative energy you could almost taste. There were brainstorming sessions that felt more like lively debates, late-night pizza runs, and the collective cheer of a successful project launch. We were a family, truly. We celebrated every win, no matter how small, and we rallied together through every challenge. The future felt bright, limitless even, a wide-open canvas just waiting for our next brushstroke. Then, the storm clouds gathered on the horizon. Slowly at first, almost imperceptibly, whispers started circulating, then louder murmurs, about a new player in the market. A behemoth, an industry titan, known simply as Apex Global. They were massive, with offices in every major city, a seemingly endless budget, and a reputation for crushing anything that stood in their way. Their entry into our niche market felt less like competition and more like an impending natural disaster. At first, I tried to be optimistic. Maybe there was enough room for everyone. Maybe our unique approach, our personalized service would be enough to differentiate us. I clung to the idea that quality and connection would always triumph over sheer scale. But Apex Global wasn't interested in healthy competition. Their strategy was clear, brutal, and utterly without mercy. Acquire market share at any cost and eliminate any perceived threats. And we, Zenith Innovations, with our humble garage origins and our fiercely loyal client base, were deemed a threat. The first signs were subtle. A key employee, someone I had personally mentored, suddenly left for an irresistible offer at Apex. Then another. Then a crucial supplier, one we had built a relationship with over years, informed us they could no longer prioritize our orders, citing new, larger contracts with Apex. It felt like being slowly squeezed, the air getting thinner and thinner. But the real blow, the one that truly shook our foundations, came in the form of a direct assault on our client base. Apex Global started offering services identical to ours, but at prices so low they were frankly unsustainable for any company, let alone one with our overhead. They were selling at a loss, a clear predatory pricing strategy designed to starve us out. Their sales teams, armed with bottomless expense accounts and aggressive directives, began systematically targeting our most valuable clients. They'd walk in, offer a ridiculously low price, throw in a year of free support, and even offer to buy out existing contracts. It was a full frontal assault, a scorched earth policy aimed squarely at Zenith Innovations. I remember one particular afternoon vividly. I was sitting in my office, the whiteboard behind me still covered with ambitious growth projections, when the phone rang. It was Mark, one of our earliest and most loyal clients, a small manufacturing firm we'd helped completely overhaul their inventory system. His voice was heavy, apologetic. He told me Apex had offered him a package that was simply too good to refuse. He hated to do it, he said, but as a business owner himself, he had to consider the bottom line. I understood, of course I did, but it felt like a punch to the gut. The feeling of betrayal, not from Mark, but from the unfairness of it all, was almost overwhelming. That phone call wasn't an isolated incident. Over the next few months, it became a recurring nightmare. One by one, our clients, the very people we had poured our hearts into serving, began to slip away. The calls were always the same. Regretful, apologetic, but ultimately driven by the cold logic of cost savings. Our revenue plummeted. The vibrant hum of the office began to fade, replaced by a tense, nervous silence. The laughter dwindled. We were bleeding. Slowly but surely, and I felt utterly helpless. I started having trouble sleeping. My mind raced constantly, replaying every interaction, every decision, searching for a mistake, a misstep that could have led us to relationships. And our commitment to genuine expertise were not just quaint notions, but potent competitive advantages. They wanted our soul, and in refusing to sell it, we had solidified its very essence. The period immediately following that pivotal moment was one of deliberate introspection and strategic recalibration. We had proven we could withstand external pressure, but now we faced the internal challenge of how to expand our reach without diluting our core. Scaling, we knew, was not merely about adding more people or more clients. It was about intelligently extending our unique methodology, ensuring that every new team member understood and embodied our values, and that every new partnership was built on the same foundation of trust and mutual respect. We began by formalizing some of the unspoken tenets that had guided us. These were not rigid rules, but rather a set of shared principles that articulated our approach to problem-solving, client engagement, and internal collaboration. We called it our partnership playbook, a living document that evolved with our experiences. It emphasized active listening over prescriptive solutions, co-creation over vendor-client dynamics, and long-term value over short-term gains. It became a cornerstone of our onboarding process, a testament to the belief that culture was not just a buzzword, but the very operating system of our success. Our team grew, but intentionally. We were meticulous in our hiring, prioritizing individuals who demonstrated not just technical prowess, but also empathy, curiosity, and a genuine desire to contribute to something larger than themselves. We sought out those who understood that our work was not just about lines of code or data points, but about empowering people and solving real-world human challenges. This meant our recruitment process was often longer, more personal, and perhaps less efficient by conventional metrics, but the dividends were immeasurable. Each new hire felt like an extension of our existing family, bringing fresh perspectives while seamlessly integrating into our collaborative ethos. With a strengthened team and a clearer articulation of our values, we turned our attention to deepening our existing client relationships. We discovered that our most successful partnerships were those where our clients viewed us not merely as a service provider, but as an embedded extension of their own strategic thinking. We invested in dedicated client success teams, not as a sales function, but as genuine advocates whose sole purpose was to ensure our clients were not just satisfied, but thriving. This proactive approach often led to identifying new needs, new opportunities for innovation, and organic expansion of our engagements, all driven by genuine value creation rather than aggressive upselling. One particular project exemplified this evolution. A long-standing client, a medium-sized manufacturing firm, approached us with a seemingly insurmountable problem. Their legacy systems were creating bottlenecks that threatened to stifle their growth in a rapidly evolving market. Instead of proposing an off-the-shelf solution or a complete overhaul, we engaged in a deep dive, spending weeks embedded within their operations. We learned their processes, understood their pain points from the ground up, and collaboratively designed a phased modernization strategy. It was a testament to our belief that technology should adapt to human needs, not the other way around. The solution we co-created was bespoke, efficient, and most importantly, embraced by their entire workforce, because they had been part of its genesis. The success of that project became a powerful case study, not just for us but for the industry, demonstrating the profound impact of true partnership. Word of our unique approach began to spread more widely, not through aggressive marketing campaigns, but through the most powerful form of endorsement: client testimonials and industry recognition. We started receiving invitations to speak at conferences, not about our specific software features, but about our philosophy of client partnership and organic innovation. This external validation was gratifying, but it also presented new challenges. Increased visibility meant more inquiries, more potential clients, and the delicate balancing act of maintaining our high standards while managing growth. We established a rigorous qualification process for new clients, understanding that not every opportunity was the right fit. We sought partners who shared our long-term vision, who valued genuine collaboration, and who were committed to investing in solutions that truly served their people and their purpose. This selectivity, while sometimes difficult to implement in the face of tempting revenue projections, was crucial. It ensured that our team remained focused on projects where we could deliver maximum impact and maintain the integrity of our collaborative model. We learned that saying no to the wrong opportunities was just as important as saying yes to the right ones. Innovation, for us, was not a separate department or a quarterly sprint. It was woven into the fabric of our daily work. By being so deeply embedded with our clients, we were constantly exposed to emerging needs and unsolved problems. Our developers, designers, and strategists were encouraged to experiment, to prototype, and to share ideas freely. We fostered an environment where failure was seen as a learning opportunity, not a setback. This iterative approach allowed us to continually refine our existing offerings and, crucially, to identify entirely new avenues for development that arose organically from the real-world experiences of our partners. We were not chasing trends. We were helping to define them through practical application and human-centered design. One such avenue emerged from the increasing complexity of data management for many of our clients. They were drowning in information, but starved for insight. Our solution was not another complex analytics platform, but a suite of intuitive tools designed to democratize data, making it accessible and actionable for every level of an organization. It was about empowering individuals to make better decisions, faster, without needing a data science degree. This product line, born from observing a pervasive client need, quickly became a significant extension of our core offerings, further solidifying our reputation as innovators who understood the human element of technology. The journey was not without its internal struggles. As we grew, maintaining the intimate, familial culture that had defined our early days required conscious effort. We implemented regular all-hands meetings, not just for updates, but for open dialogue and shared storytelling. We organized team retreats that focused on connection and collaboration, not just strategic planning. We invested in leadership development programs that emphasized empathy, servant leadership, and the importance of nurturing talent from within. We understood that our people were our greatest asset, and their well-being, their growth, and their sense of belonging were paramount. I found my own role evolving from hands-on problem solver to visionary and cultural steward. My focus shifted from the minutiae of individual projects to articulating the broader purpose, ensuring that every team member, every client, understood the why behind what we did. It was a demanding transition, requiring constant communication, unwavering belief in our principles, and the courage to delegate and trust. I learned that true leadership was not about having all the answers, but about fostering an environment where the best answers could emerge from a collective intelligence. We also faced the inevitable challenge of competition. While the Goliaths had momentarily retreated, their absence merely created space for new Davids to emerge, some of whom sought to imitate our success. This was a testament to the validity of our model, but it also meant we had to continually innovate, not just in our products but in our approach to partnership. We doubled down on our commitment to building deep, lasting relationships, understanding that true loyalty was earned through consistent value delivery and genuine human connection, not through marketing hype or price wars. The sweetest part of our continued journey was indeed knowing we were just getting started. It meant that the canvas was still vast, the possibilities limitless, and our capacity for positive impact ever expanding. We were building more than a successful business. We were cultivating an ecosystem where technology served humanity, where trust was currency, and where innovation was a collaborative journey. Our story was a living testament to the idea that a company could be both profoundly profitable and profoundly principled, that the pursuit of excellence and the commitment to human values were not mutually exclusive, but mutually reinforcing. We were proving, day by day, that the future belonged not to the biggest, but to the most thoughtful, the most connected, and the most genuinely dedicated to making a difference in their corner of the world. And as I looked at the faces of my team, our partners, and the growing community that had gathered around us, I knew this was a journey I was honored to continue, one step, one partnership, one innovation at a time. The horizon was bright, filled with the promise of more challenges to overcome, more problems to solve, and more relationships to forge, all guided by the same unwavering belief in the power of purpose. The horizon was indeed bright, a shimmering expanse, not of distant potential, but of palpable, imminent action. That feeling of collective energy, the quiet hum of minds, aligning, was the most potent fuel I knew. We had built a foundation, strong and true, but a foundation is meant to support something grander, something that reaches for the sky. Our initial triumphs, though significant, felt like the first few steps of a much longer trek, a trek that now beckoned with even greater urgency. The next phase, as it began to coalesce in our strategy sessions, was about scaling our impact beyond the confines of our immediate reach, about translating our philosophy into a global vernacular. It was about proving that the principles we championed were not just applicable in one domain or one market, but were universal truths capable of transforming entire systems. Our discussions often circled back to the notion of digital inclusion, the idea that access to information, to tools, to opportunity was a fundamental human right. A fundamental human right. This was not a mere slogan or an abstract ideal. It was the bedrock upon which our next towering ambition would be constructed. We understood that in an increasingly interconnected world, to deny someone access to digital resources was akin to denying them literacy in a previous age, or clean water in any age. It was to cordon off entire populations from the global conversation, from economic participation, from educational advancement, and from the very fabric of modern democracy. Our initial successes had been in optimizing existing systems for those who already had some form of access, streamlining processes, enhancing user experience, and creating more intuitive pathways to information. Now the challenge was far grander. It was about building those pathways where none existed, about bridging chasms of inequality that had for too long been accepted as immutable facts of life. The strategy sessions became intense, vibrant crucibles of ideas. We brought in experts from diverse fields, anthropologists who understood cultural nuances, economists who could project long-term societal impacts, engineers who dreamed of low-cost, resilient infrastructure, and educators who envisioned entirely new paradigms of learning. The whiteboard walls of our war room were perpetually scarred with diagrams, flowcharts, and lists of pros and cons, each stroke representing a piece of the sprawling puzzle we were attempting to solve. There was a palpable sense of excitement, yes, but also a deep humility. We knew the scale of the problem was immense, dwarfing even our most ambitious previous undertakings. This was not about incremental improvement. It was about fundamental transformation. Our core philosophy, which had always emphasized empowerment through accessible technology, found its ultimate expression here. We believed that technology, at its best, was an equalizer, a tool that could dismantle barriers rather than erect new ones. But for it to be an equalizer, it had to be designed with inclusion at its heart, not as an afterthought. This meant rethinking everything from the ground up. It meant questioning the very assumptions embedded in much of the existing digital infrastructure. Could we create devices that were not only affordable, but also durable enough to withstand challenging environments, intuitive enough to be used by individuals with no prior digital literacy, and powered by sustainable energy sources where traditional grids were non-existent? Could we develop platforms that transcended language barriers, adapted to varying levels of connectivity, and respected local cultural contexts? These were the questions that fueled our late-night debates and early morning breakthroughs. We realized that simply transplanting existing Western models of digital connectivity would be a catastrophic mistake. What worked in Silicon Valley or London would likely fail in rural sub-Saharan Africa or the remote Amazon basin. The solutions had to be organic, co-created with the communities they were intended to serve. This was a crucial insight. It wasn't about us bringing solutions to them. It was about us facilitating their own solutions, providing the tools and the framework for self-determination. We began to sketch out a multi-pronged approach. One pillar was infrastructure. This involved exploring innovative, cost-effective ways to establish connectivity in underserved regions. We looked into mesh networks, satellite internet solutions tailored for localized distribution, and even experimental drone-based systems for temporary or emergency access. The goal was not necessarily to replicate fiber optic broadband everywhere overnight, but to establish a baseline of reliable, affordable access that could support basic communication, information exchange, and educational applications. A second pillar focused on hardware and software. We initiated projects to design ultra-low-cost, energy-efficient devices, not stripped-down versions of existing products, but purpose-built tools optimized for specific needs. These devices needed long battery life, robust construction, and interfaces that were visually driven and multilingual. On the software side, we envisioned open-source platforms that could host localized educational content, health information, agricultural best practices, and microeconomic tools. The emphasis was on accessibility features, offline functionality, and data privacy. We wanted to ensure that even with intermittent connectivity, users could still access and process vital information. The third, and perhaps most critical pillar, was human capacity building. Providing the tools was only half the battle. People needed to know how to use them, understand their potential, and integrate them meaningfully into their lives. This meant extensive training programs, not just for end users but for local facilitators, who could become community champions. These champions would be trained not only in technical skills, but also in pedagogical methods, enabling them to teach others and foster a sustainable ecosystem of digital literacy. We understood that true empowerment came from ownership and self-reliance, not from perpetual dependence on external support. As these plans began to solidify, the initial excitement deepened into a profound sense of purpose. We were moving beyond the abstract and into the realm of tangible impact. The financial models were complex, requiring a delicate balance of philanthropic funding, government partnerships, and innovative commercial strategies that prioritized long-term sustainability over short-term profit. We knew we couldn't rely solely on donations. For this to be truly transformative and scalable, it needed to have an inherent economic engine that could sustain its growth and reach. This led us to explore models like micro-subscriptions for curated educational content, or partnerships with local businesses that could leverage connectivity for economic growth, sharing a portion of their gains to maintain the infrastructure. The leadership team, myself included, felt the weight of this responsibility acutely. My days became a blur of international calls, strategy reviews, and passionate internal presentations. I found myself traveling more frequently, not just to conferences and investor meetings, but to potential pilot sites, meeting with local leaders, community organizers, and future users. These direct interactions were invaluable. They grounded our lofty ideals in the lived realities of people who stood to gain the most from our efforts. I remember one particular trip to a remote village in Southeast Asia, where I sat on a woven mat, listening to a group of elders express their hopes for their grandchildren to access knowledge that was previously beyond their reach. Their words, spoken with a quiet dignity, resonated more deeply than any boardroom presentation. They spoke of connection, of opportunity, of breaking cycles of poverty and isolation through the simple power of information. It was in those moments that the abstract concept of digital inclusion truly crystallized into a deeply human endeavor. The challenges were formidable, as expected. Bureaucratic hurdles in various countries often felt like insurmountable walls. Regulatory frameworks were sometimes non-existent for the kind of innovative solutions we proposed, or conversely, were designed to protect existing monopolies that had little interest in widespread, affordable access. Cultural sensitivities required constant vigilance and adaptation. What was empowering in one community might be perceived as intrusive or even threatening in another. We learned to listen far more than we spoke, to observe before we acted, and to always prioritize genuine collaboration over imposed solutions. There were moments of frustration, certainly, when progress felt agonizingly slow, or when a promising pilot project encountered unexpected setbacks, perhaps due to political instability or unforeseen logistical nightmares. Yet, these setbacks never deterred us. They merely refined our approach, forcing us to be more agile, more resilient, and more deeply committed to our core principles. We built a culture within our team that embraced learning from failure, viewing every obstacle as an opportunity to iterate and improve. We celebrated small victories with genuine enthusiasm. The first community center brought online, the first group of local teachers trained, the first student accessing a vast library of knowledge from a device powered by a solar panel. Each of these moments was a testament to the collective effort and the unwavering belief in our mission. Our technological innovations were not just about hardware and software. They were about creating ecosystems. We developed an adaptable framework for content delivery that could be populated by local educators and storytellers, ensuring relevance and cultural resonance. We experimented with AI-powered translation tools that could bridge linguistic divides, allowing information to flow more freely across diverse communities. We explored decentralized identity systems that could provide individuals and regions without traditional documentation with a secure and verifiable digital presence. Unlocking access to financial services and other critical resources, the technology was always a means to an end, a servant to the broader humanistic goal. The narrative of our journey began to spread, attracting a growing network of allies. Other tech companies, inspired by our mission, offered pro bono engineering support or shared their own research. International development organizations saw the synergy between our digital inclusion efforts and their own goals of poverty reduction and sustainable development. Governments, recognizing the long-term benefits of a digitally empowered citizenry, began to open doors and offer support, sometimes even adapting their policies to facilitate our work. This burgeoning ecosystem of partners was crucial. We understood that no single entity, however well-resourced or well-intentioned, could tackle a problem of this magnitude alone. Collaboration was not just a buzzword, it was an operational imperative. I remember a particular moment during a global summit on digital equity. I was presenting our progress, sharing stories from the field, and outlining our ambitious future plans. As I spoke, I could feel a shift in the room. What had once been skepticism or polite interest was transforming into genuine engagement. Questions from the audience became less about feasibility and more about how they could contribute. It was a powerful validation, a signal that our vision was resonating, that the seed we had planted was beginning to sprout across the global consciousness. The idea that digital access was a right, not a privilege, was gaining traction, moving from the periphery of niche discussions to the mainstream of international policy. This journey of global expansion also profoundly impacted me personally. The challenges refined my leadership, forcing me to cultivate a deeper sense of empathy and a more nuanced understanding of global complexities. I learned to navigate cultural differences with greater sensitivity, to appreciate the wisdom embedded in diverse perspectives, and to lead with a blend of unwavering conviction and adaptive flexibility. The weight of the mission, though immense, was also incredibly invigorating. Every success, no matter how small, fueled my determination. Every setback reinforced the importance of resilience. I often found myself reflecting on the early days, the initial spark of an idea, the small team huddled in a makeshift office, dreaming of a better way. We had started with the belief that technology could unlock human potential, and now we were pushing that belief to its absolute limit, striving to unlock the potential of billions. The scale was dizzying, but the underlying principle remained steadfast. Empower the individual, and you empower the world. Our metrics for success expanded far beyond traditional business indicators. While financial sustainability was vital, our true north was measured in lives touched, opportunities created, and barriers dismantled. We tracked the number of people gaining first-time internet access, the increase in literacy rates in our pilot communities, the establishment of new local businesses leveraging digital tools, and the participation of previously marginalized voices in public discourse. These were the numbers that truly mattered, the data points that painted a picture of genuine human progress. We also recognized that the landscape of digital inclusion was constantly evolving. New technologies emerged, new challenges presented themselves, and the needs of communities shifted. Our approach had to remain iterative, continuously adapting and refining our strategies based on real-world feedback and emerging trends. This was not a project with a defined endpoint, but an ongoing commitment, a continuous striving towards a more equitable and connected world. The work was never truly finished. It was a perpetual process of building, learning, and expanding. The vision that had begun to coalesce in our strategy sessions had now taken root in diverse soils across the globe. It was a testament to the power of a shared belief, the dedication of an extraordinary team, and the inherent human desire for connection and opportunity. We were not just building infrastructure or developing software. We were weaving a new tapestry of global communication, one thread at a time. Each thread represented a life empowered, a voice heard, a mind enlightened. The hum of collective energy that I had felt so strongly in the early days had now amplified into a vibrant symphony, a chorus of voices from every corner of the earth, all contributing to the grand narrative of a more inclusive digital future. And I knew, with every fiber of my being, that this was just the beginning. The horizon was still vast, filled with untapped potential, and we were ready to continue the trek, one purposeful step after another. This precipice, was it my fault? Had I been too naive, too trusting? The weight of it all, the responsibility for my team, for the dream we had all built together, felt like a physical burden pressing down on me. I saw the worry etched on the faces of my employees, the forced smiles, the quiet conversations. They were trying to be strong, but I knew they were scared. We all were. We tried to fight back with what we had. We emphasized our superior customer service, our deep industry knowledge, our personalized approach. We reminded clients of the times we had gone above and beyond, the late-night fixes, the weekend support, but against Apex's seemingly infinite resources and their aggressive pricing, it felt like bringing a butter knife to a gunfight. Their marketing machine was relentless, painting us as an outdated, expensive alternative. They even started spreading subtle, insidious rumors about our financial stability. It was a psychological war as much as an economic one. There were days I seriously considered throwing in the towel. Days when the exhaustion was so profound, the despair so deep, that giving up felt like the only sane option. I'd stare at the ceiling at 3 a.m, the silence of the house amplifying my fears, and wonder how I could possibly tell my team that it was over. How could I face them and admit defeat? The thought was unbearable. But then, something shifted. It wasn't a sudden epiphany, more like a slow, simmering anger that gradually coalesced into a fierce resolve. It started with a conversation with my co-founder, Sarah, who had been with me since the garage days. She was usually the calm, pragmatic one, but even her voice was laced with frustration. We were sitting in the deserted office late one Friday, the only light coming from our laptops. She looked at me, her eyes tired but firm. "You know," she said, "they think they've won. They think we're just going to roll over and die." Her words, simple as they were, ignited something within me. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about principle. It was about fighting for everything we believed in, everything we had built. It was about showing Apex Global that a small business with heart and ingenuity could stand its ground against a soulless corporate machine. This wasn't just a business battle. It was personal. That night, the idea of revenge, not a petty, destructive kind, but a strategic, triumphant kind, began to take root. It wasn't about hurting Apex Global for the sake of it, but about proving them wrong, about demonstrating the inherent value of what we did, and ultimately, about reclaiming our rightful place in the market. It was about turning their aggression into our greatest opportunity. We spent the entire weekend holed up in the office, just Sarah and I, surrounded by whiteboards, empty coffee cups, and the ghosts of past victories. We started by dissecting Apex Global's strategy. What were their strengths, their vast resources, their brand recognition, their ability to undercut prices? But what were their weaknesses? That was the crucial question. Their sheer size, we realized, was also a liability. They were slow, bureaucratic, and notoriously unresponsive to individual client needs. Their solutions were generic, one-size-fits-all packages designed for mass deployment, not tailored customization. They lacked the agility, the personal touch, the deep understanding of niche markets that we possessed. They were a battleship, powerful but ponderous. We were a speedboat, fast, maneuverable, and capable of operating in shallow waters where they couldn't follow. The more we analyzed, the more a plan began to form, a daring, audacious plan that felt both terrifying and exhilarating. We couldn't beat them on price. That was a losing battle. We couldn't outspend them on marketing. But we could outthink them, we could outserve them, we could out-innovate them. Our revenge, we decided, would be built on 3 pillars: hyper-specialization, unparalleled customer experience, and disruptive innovation. First, hyper-specialization. We would no longer try to be everything to everyone. Apex Global's generic offerings were their weakness. We would double down on a very specific, underserved segment of the market that Apex either ignored or served poorly. We identified a growing need among small, niche e-commerce businesses for highly integrated, bespoke inventory and customer relationship management systems. These businesses often had unique workflows and couldn't fit into Apex's rigid templates. We knew these clients intimately. We understood their pain points better than anyone. We would become the absolute, undisputed experts in this micro-niche. Second, unparalleled customer experience. This had always been our strength, but now we would elevate it to an art form. We would promise not just support, but partnership. Every client would get a dedicated account manager, a direct line to our development team, and a commitment to continuous improvement based on their feedback. We would turn customer service into a competitive advantage so profound that no amount of price cutting from Apex could ever match it. We would make our clients feel not just valued, but truly heard and understood. And third, disruptive innovation. This was the riskiest, but potentially the most rewarding part of the plan. We would invest heavily in developing a new, proprietary AI-driven analytics tool that could predict inventory needs and customer behavior with unprecedented accuracy for our target niche. This wasn't just an add-on. It was a game-changer, something Apex Global, with its slower development cycles and focus on broader markets, wouldn't be able to replicate quickly or effectively. It would be our technological edge, our secret weapon. The plan was ambitious, terrifyingly so, especially with our dwindling resources. It meant cutting back even further, making tough decisions, and asking our remaining team to dig deeper than ever before. But when I presented the strategy to them, there was a palpable shift in the room. The fear didn't vanish entirely, but it was replaced by a spark of hope, a flicker of defiance. They saw the logic, they felt the passion, and they understood the fight. We were no longer just defending, we were attacking, strategically and intelligently. The first step was to drastically streamline our operations. We let go of some of our less profitable services and temporarily paused new client acquisition outside our chosen niche. It was painful, like amputating a limb, but necessary for survival. Every penny counted. Every resource needed to be focused on this new direction. We moved into an even smaller, more affordable office space, shedding unnecessary overhead. It felt like starting over, almost back to the garage days, but this time with the wisdom of experience and the fire of purpose. Next, we began a deep dive into our target niche. We spent weeks interviewing e-commerce business owners, understanding their daily struggles, their dreams, their frustrations with existing solutions. We weren't just selling software. We were crafting a solution built from the ground up, specifically for them. Our developers, a brilliant and dedicated bunch, embraced the challenge with gusto. They were invigorated by the clarity of purpose, the knowledge that they were building something truly unique and impactful. We designed our new product, codenamed Phoenix, to be incredibly intuitive, visually appealing, and most importantly, deeply integrated with the specific platforms our niche clients used. It wasn't just a tool. It was an extension of their business, anticipating their needs before they even knew they had them. The AI component was particularly challenging, requiring countless hours of data analysis and algorithm refinement, but the potential payoff was enormous. Marketing our new specialized offering was also a complete overhaul. We couldn't afford traditional advertising against Apex Global's budget. So we leaned into content marketing, thought leadership, and community building. We started producing highly valuable, niche-specific content, detailed guides, webinars, and case studies that spoke directly to the pain points of our target audience. We engaged actively in relevant online forums and social media groups, offering genuine advice and building trust. We positioned ourselves not just as a vendor but as a trusted resource, an authority in their specific domain. The early days of this pivot were still incredibly tough. There were moments of doubt, moments when I wondered if we had made the right choice, if we were just digging ourselves into a deeper hole. Cash flow was tight, and the pressure was immense. But we pushed through, fueled by a collective belief in our vision and a stubborn refusal to be defeated. Every small victory, every positive feedback from a beta tester, every new sign-up for our email list, was celebrated like a major triumph. Our first real break came from a small online boutique specializing in artisanal leather goods. They had been struggling with inventory management, constantly running out of popular items or holding too much slow-moving stock. Apex Global's solution was a clunky, expensive mess that didn't integrate with their custom e-commerce platform. We offered them a tailored version of Phoenix, promising a level of customization and support that Apex couldn't even dream of. We worked hand in hand with them, refining the system, listening to their feedback, and within weeks, their inventory accuracy skyrocketed, and their sales improved dramatically. The owner, a wonderfully passionate woman named Clara, became our biggest advocate. She raved about us in online communities, shared her success story on her blog, and even introduced us to other e-commerce entrepreneurs facing similar challenges. Her testimonial wasn't just a review, it was a powerful endorsement from someone who had genuinely benefited from our specialized approach. This was the kind of organic, authentic marketing that Apex Global, with all its billions, could never buy. Word began to spread within that niche. Our reputation for deep expertise and unparalleled service grew. Other e-commerce businesses, tired of being treated as just another number by the big players, started seeking us out. They saw our content, they read Clara's story, and they recognized that we understood their unique world. We weren't just offering a product. We were offering a partnership, a solution, crafted specifically for their success. The shift was slow, Almost imperceptible at first, but then it gained momentum. We started seeing inquiries from businesses that had previously gone with Apex Global, lured by their low prices, only to find themselves frustrated by the lack of customization and responsive support. They were coming back, chastened but wiser, looking for a solution that truly worked for them, not just some generic corporate template. This was the first taste of our strategic revenge, and it was sweeter than I could have imagined. We weren't just surviving, we were thriving. Not by competing on Apex Global's terms, but by creating a whole new playing field where our strengths were their weaknesses. We were proving that specialization, dedication, and genuine partnership could indeed triumph over brute force and endless budgets. Our team, once demoralized, was now buzzing with renewed energy. The whiteboard was again filled with ambitious ideas, but this time they were focused, strategic, and deeply rooted in our niche expertise. The creative hum in the office returned, louder and more vibrant than ever. We were not just surviving, but defining a new paradigm. Our sales pipeline, once a trickle of desperate cold calls, was now a steady stream of warm leads, often referrals from those returning clients. These were businesses that understood the value of a tailored suit over an off-the-rack garment. They sought partners, not just vendors. Our client meetings were no longer about convincing them we could do the job, but about collaboratively defining the best way to do it, leveraging our deep understanding of their specific industry challenges. The conversations were richer, the outcomes more impactful. The engineering team, previously stretched thin supporting generic platforms, was now diving deep into complex, industry-specific integrations and custom features that truly moved the needle for our clients. They were solving problems that Apex Global either ignored or deemed too niche to bother with, problems that were critical to our clients' core operations. This focus reignited their passion, transforming mundane coding tasks into exciting challenges. The solutions they crafted were not just functional. They were elegant, efficient, and often revolutionary within our clients' ecosystems. The satisfaction of seeing their work directly translate into significant improvements for a client was palpable, fueling a virtuous cycle of innovation and dedication. Our marketing efforts shifted dramatically. We no longer needed to scream our existence from the rooftops. Instead, we cultivated our reputation through detailed case studies that highlighted our specialized successes, testimonials that spoke volumes about our partnership approach, and thought leadership pieces that demonstrated our unparalleled understanding of our niche. We became the go-to experts, the whispered recommendation in exclusive industry circles. This organic growth was far more sustainable and authentic than any mass-market campaign Apex Global could ever orchestrate. We were building a brand not on ubiquity, but on undeniable authority and proven results within our chosen domain. This success was not accidental. It was the direct result of our focused strategy. We meticulously analyzed every returning client, identifying common pain points with Apex Global and codifying our unique solutions. We built playbooks, not for generic sales pitches, but for diagnosing specific industry ailments and prescribing our specialized remedies. Our onboarding process became a masterclass in deep discovery, ensuring every new client felt heard, understood, and confident that their unique needs were not just being met, but anticipated with a precision they had never experienced before. We started investing heavily in research and development, but always within the confines of our niche. We explored emerging technologies that could further enhance our specialized offerings, rather than chasing every shiny new object that promised broad appeal. For instance, we began prototyping AI-driven analytics tools specifically designed to extract actionable insights from the complex datasets prevalent in our clients' industries, something Apex Global, its broad-brush AI solutions, completely missed. This was not about building a better general-purpose AI. It was about building the perfect asterisk AI for our specific corner of the world, a tool so specialized it would be indispensable. Initially, Apex Global seemed oblivious. Our market share was a tiny fraction of theirs, a blip on their radar. They were too busy chasing global dominance, acquiring smaller companies, and issuing quarterly reports touting their ever-expanding user base. They operated on a scale where individual client frustrations were acceptable collateral damage, easily offset by sheer volume. They believed their brand recognition and economies of scale were insurmountable, a fortress impervious to any small challenger. But then, subtle shifts began to appear. We started hearing whispers from former Apex Global employees who had jumped ship, disillusioned by the corporate behemoth and its impersonal approach. They reported internal meetings where our name, once unheard, was now occasionally mentioned, albeit dismissively. Their sales teams, accustomed to easy wins based on price, were starting to encounter resistance, questions about customization, and demands for specialized support they simply could not provide. The cracks in their armor, though microscopic to them, were becoming visible to us, an early sign of their vulnerability. We even heard anecdotes of Apex Global attempting to mimic some of our features, but always in a generic, watered-down way. They could not replicate our deep industry knowledge or our dedicated support infrastructure without fundamentally altering their entire business model, which was built on standardization and automation. They tried to bolt on customization options, but these felt clunky and tacked on, lacking the organic integration that defined our solutions. It was like watching a supertanker try to execute the nimble turns of a speedboat, an exercise in futility. Their attempts only served to highlight our unique strengths and further solidify our position as the true specialists. The challenge now was how to scale without diluting our essence. We could not hire just anyone. Every new team member had to embody our values of specialization, dedication, and genuine partnership. We implemented rigorous hiring processes, not just for technical skills, but for a deep understanding of our target industries, or a genuine desire to acquire it. We created internal training programs that immersed new hires in the intricacies of our clients' worlds, transforming them into specialized consultants rather than mere support staff. Our culture became a crucible for expertise, where knowledge sharing and continuous learning were paramount. Our growth was deliberate, controlled. We did not chase every potential client. We carefully selected those who were the best fit, those whose problems we could solve most effectively, and those who truly valued a collaborative relationship. This allowed us to maintain our high standards of service and ensure that every new project further solidified our reputation as the undisputed experts in our field. We reinvested profits not into flashy marketing campaigns, but into enhancing our core product, refining our processes, and empowering our team with the best tools and resources available. This disciplined approach ensured our expansion was sustainable and aligned with our core mission. Looking back, the despair of those dark days felt like a distant nightmare. The weight that had pressed down on my shoulders had lifted, replaced by a sense of purpose and exhilarating challenge. Leading this team, watching them reclaim their passion and witness the tangible impact of their work, was the greatest reward. It was not just about revenue or market share. It was about proving a philosophy, demonstrating that quality, focus, and human connection could indeed prevail against the impersonal forces of corporate might. It was about creating something meaningful and truly valuable. There were still sleepless nights, of course. The responsibility of leading a growing company, of maintaining this delicate balance between growth and specialization, was immense. But these were the good kind of sleepless nights, filled with strategic planning and exciting possibilities, not gnawing fear. I found myself sketching new product ideas on napkins during dinner, or waking up with solutions to complex technical challenges, my mind constantly engaged with the vibrant ecosystem we were building. The mental energy was channeled into creation, not anxiety. The journey had taught me invaluable lessons. It was not about being the biggest, but about being the best at what you chose to do. It was not about shouting the loudest, but about listening most intently. And it certainly was not about competing on someone else's terms, but about carving out your own unique space where your strengths were amplified and your weaknesses minimized. We had learned that true power lay in differentiation, in being indispensable rather than merely an option. Our ambition was no longer to merely survive, but to become the undeniable standard-bearer within our chosen niche. We envisioned a future where any company in our target industries, facing a particular set of complex challenges, would automatically think of us as the first and only solution. We aimed to cultivate an ecosystem of partners, integrators, and even academic institutions that would further our specialized knowledge and expand the reach of our expertise. We wanted to be synonymous with excellence in our domain. We began exploring strategic alliances with complementary technology providers who shared our philosophy of deep specialization. These were not acquisitions aimed at market consolidation, but genuine partnerships designed to offer even more comprehensive, tailored solutions to our clients. Imagine integrating our specialized platform with a niche hardware provider or an industry-specific data analytics firm, creating an end-to-end solution that no generalist could ever hope to match. These collaborations were about synergistic value creation, expanding our collective capabilities without diluting our focus. The whiteboard, once a symbol of frantic brainstorming, was now a canvas for our carefully considered future. We mapped out new features, planned for expansion into closely related sub-niches, and even discussed the possibility of an annual industry summit, positioning ourselves not just as a technology provider, but as a thought leader and community builder. We were no longer fighting for scraps. We were building an empire, brick by specialized brick, an empire founded on the principle that true value lies not in breadth, but in profound depth. We were creating a legacy of precision, partnership, and unparalleled expertise. The lessons of our near demise were etched into our company DNA. Never sacrifice depth for perceived breadth. Always prioritize genuine client needs over generic solutions, and relentlessly pursue excellence within our chosen domain. This ethos guided every decision, every new hire, every product roadmap discussion. It was our compass, ensuring we stayed true to the principles that had brought us back from the brink. We understood that our success was not merely a reaction to Apex Global its failures, but a proactive affirmation of a better, more human-centric way of doing business. We formalized our internal knowledge base, transforming individual expertise into collective intelligence. Every complex problem solved, every innovative feature developed, every client success story contributed to a growing repository of specialized wisdom. This allowed us to onboard new team members more effectively, maintain consistency across projects, and continuously elevate our service standards. It was our intellectual capital, carefully cultivated and fiercely protected. Our team members became recognized experts in their own right, frequently invited to speak at industry conferences and contribute to specialized publications. This further cemented our reputation and attracted top talent who yearned to work on challenging, meaningful projects rather than being cogs in a corporate machine. The financial health of the company mirrored its renewed spirit. Our profit margins, once razor-thin under the pressure of Apex Global, its pricing wars, had expanded significantly. Clients were willing to pay a premium for solutions that truly solved their problems and delivered measurable ROI, a premium that Apex Global, its generic offerings, could not command. This financial stability allowed us to invest even more aggressively in our people, our technology, and our long-term vision. We established an innovation lab, a dedicated space for exploring groundbreaking ideas within our niche, free from immediate commercial pressures. This lab became a fertile ground for future product development, ensuring we remained at the cutting edge of our specialized field. Apex Global, meanwhile, continued its slow, almost imperceptible decline in our specific market segments. Their quarterly reports still painted a picture of overall growth, but beneath the surface, the attrition of high-value, complex clients was steadily increasing. They were losing not just revenue, but also the kind of challenging projects that fostered innovation and attracted top talent. Their attempts to stem the tide were clumsy, acquiring smaller, specialized firms and trying to integrate them into their monolithic structure, often stifling the very innovation they sought to acquire. We watched, not with malice, but with a quiet understanding of the inevitable consequences of their chosen path. They were trying to buy what we had built organically: true expertise and genuine client partnership. Our journey had become a testament to the power of focus, the resilience of a dedicated team, and the enduring value of genuine human connection in a world increasingly dominated by impersonal algorithms and mass-market solutions. We were not just building software, we were building relationships, trust, and a community of like-minded innovators who believe that technology should serve humanity its specific needs, not the other way around. The future was not about conquering the entire market. It was about mastering our corner of it, and in doing so creating something truly extraordinary. We were proving that the Davids of the world, armed with precision and purpose, could indeed outmaneuver the Goliaths. And the sweetest part was knowing we were just getting started. The sensation of being just getting started was less a feeling of restless ambition and more a quiet, resolute hum beneath the surface of our daily operations. It was the knowledge that we had cracked a code, found a sustainable rhythm, and that the principles which had guided us through the initial storms were not just theoretical ideals but practical, actionable truths. The attempt by the larger players to absorb us had, ironically, served as a powerful validation. It confirmed that our organic growth, our focus on deep client,